But you can't throw out everything. You can't go, that stat skewed. That black guy from Harvard who was always a liberal who did it twice, it's skewed. You can't throw it out.
How often do you see black police killing unarmed white people?
Actually,
how often do you see that? How often do you see that?
Well, I tell you, actually, the stats show that when you're dealing with armed white people versus black armed people, white armed people are more likely to be shot by the cops than black.
White armed people are more likely to kill police officers. Look at what happened in Kansas where those 5 police officers.
Let's call the stats a wash on that. Here's what I do know. Everyone wanted the body cam footage, and I agree. I was like, we should have body cam footage. We should have accountability for police officers, right? And we were to believe after the era of, remember, we went through Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Mike Brown, obviously George Floyd. There were so many that you could use as examples. We thought that we'd have a rash of body cam footage showing us the police brutality. You haven't seen body cam footage of note in the last year. Once that footage came out, it's about a 20-to-1 ratio where you see someone getting violent with an officer. We have not seen what we thought we would see. And now people are going, okay, so maybe not the body cam footage, right? We thought we'd see all the abuse.
Wait a minute, before you jump off of that point, what about the body cam footage where we see white people and white police and the white citizen is being belligerent with the police, but the police showing extreme restraint in dealing with that person. Whereas black people, we reach for your wallet, bow, you get shot. I got a phone in my hand, bow, you get shot.
And I'm not doing anything.
Bow, you get
shot. The stats don't reflect it. But white people are being killed in record numbers right now, and they're pissed. And if you keep just not listening to them, look, like you said, white people in the majority of this country, you have young white people who are getting more and more mad. I'm just telling you the truth.
What they mad?
And they have the guns. They're mad because this thing. Here's why.
Because you guys are not listening. You guys are not being responsible. At some point, the majority of the country, they're gonna take this in their hands, right? And they're not gonna listen to you. That's the point. You understand? Do you understand? They're gonna take the majority. They build the system. They build the system that we already have the evidence for a lot of these things. If the Europeans become the less of minority, right? We already know the outcome. We see Zimbabwe, we already see South Africa, we see even some of these areas here in the United States, New York City, Chicago, when they become the minority, they abuse them. So at some point, a lot of these people, a lot of snow people, are going to take this in their hand, and they're not going to listen to you if you don't listen. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to you. And you don't want to get into that point, because at that point, it's too late. Well, it's too late right now. I mean, you have a 70 to 30%. You still have that 30% there with you. So I would just at least take the 30%. Let's see what we can work on, because a lot of these areas in the United States, especially Georgia, South Carolina, the cities, you cannot walk. It's not okay for us to go through a lot of these areas and feel danger. It's not okay. It's not okay. We should be able to walk wherever we want, and feel okay, safe. I'm not saying super safe, but okay, safe. If there's not a change, these people are going to take this in their hand, and not going to just even project. They're going to even throw the Constitution away and say, we're going to use pure force to move forward and do what we need to do.
Here's why. They go, look, I'm 12 times more likely to be killed by a black person than you are a white person. And you go, well, that doesn't count. They go, look, my dad's business got burned down.
Yeah.
My city got burned down. I've been accused of being a racist, even though I'm not. And I'm looking at this right now, and I'm not allowed to have an opinion, and I can't go into certain neighborhoods because I get my ass kicked. And then you just say, yeah, but you've had systemic power. That is a surefire way to breed racism.
Let's be frank about that, Steve. Now, first of all, here's why I disagree with you emphatically, right? Number one, when it is historically proven when there are riots, and this is the crazy part, most times we as blacks, we tend to riot in our own neighborhood for the same reason why we're not 12 times likely to kill a white person, because of that fact that the penalty is going to be much harsh, okay? If black people were really the kind of threat and menace to white people as we're going to sit here and say that they are, never mind the stats, there's no way in the world that most of us would still be here, because guess what? You guys would find a way to deal with the problem if it is from a multiplicity of angles, all right? So, like I say, when I'm saying this right now, when it comes to stats, deal with it. Who controls that narrative, Steve?
We did deal with it. You know what we dealt with it in liberals in blue cities? Cashless bail, catch and release. We did everything that was demanded. Defunded the police in certain neighborhoods. Guess what?
No blacks have asked for defunding the police officers.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's the deal.
Now, I will say it's mostly
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's mostly black women. It's mostly black activist women, and they're not representative of black men. I get that.
Just like the guy who killed the lady on the bus that you were talking about earlier, right? He doesn't represent black America and what he did. I mean, listen.
Here's where he does. Just listen to me here. Here's where he does. Here's where he does to a lot of people. And this is what I'm just trying to, because last time I sat and listened, but I want you to hear something really important. Here's where he does. Young white, that person's parents, that person's relatives, look at it and go, wait a second. This guy was out 14 times, and the reason he was out 14 times was because a black female judge, in the name of restorative justice, who has received funding from NGOs, said, we're going to have cashless bail and catch and release and the IOU policy in the name of racial justice. So people are going, my daughter's dead because it would have been racist to keep this guy in jail. You need to understand that, right?
No, understand.
But you understand it.
No, you have to understand. See, they don't want to understand it. See, I'm telling you, they don't want to understand it. I don't say they don't want to understand it. They want to say the little clips. They want to say what they have to say because of the community. They don't want to understand it. At some point, I hope in the next couple of years, we need to just really talk about the reality and just take matter into our own hand. Meaning, like through the legal process.
Right? Because you just made those same judgments about people who existed 150 years ago.
Yeah.
This is someone's sister.
Her flawed judgment does not represent the opinion of black people, number one.
There you go. It represents a systemic correction.
Well, let's talk about systemic correction. And you know what the problem really is? When you defund our opportunities to provide adequate psychiatric and institutionalization for those kind of people, that wouldn't have happened. Because let me tell you something, even as a black person, as a judge, if you come before me 11 times with all of the information that you provided me with, you know what? Before I release you, you know what? I'm going to have you committed to an institution because number one, the greater good is for me to preserve public integrity, and that's on both sides of the spectrum. I don't give a damn if you're black or white.
Why do you think they're not committing him to an institution?
Because there's no funding available.
No, they were shut down in the name of restorative racial justice.
And his family,
that's why he wasn't institutionalized.
And his family
he should have been in prison
too. His family pushed against it in certain like there's some of them cases where they were in court. His family was saying, "Don't put him in there."
I know, and who gives a shit?
But I'm just saying that's part of it. But when you only include the part that says the judge, you're not giving the whole story, and that's what media ends up doing. That creates these tensions in people. They straw man conversations and only tell part of it.
No, it's not a strong. The tension is there. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The tension is already there. White people are afraid to go in black neighborhoods because
so should black people be afraid to go to school because a white person go come shoot the school up? Because every time we see that, that's what keeps happening.
It's not even close.
But
now you're going to ignore. Now you're going to ignore that.
I'm scared to go to church.
I'm scared to go to church, but you're sitting in the barbershop with almost 12 black men. Come on, Steve. Now let's be realistic.
Who do you think's more at risk sitting down right here?
Exactly. He know he's not in danger around us.
No, I'm much more risk.
Nah, bro, because there's camera. I'm gonna keep it real, bro. These people are from New York. I used to just walk in an area called Boulevard, St. Boulevard Avenue. If you're from New York, you know that's very close to the Jamaica Center train station, bro. That area was so dangerous. I used to walk on that area, teaching some kids. And bro, I seen one of the most disgusting thing ever. There was a car crash in front of the school that I was working in, bro. And just in a matter of 30 seconds, this guy just fled the scene, and all of a sudden you have a stampede of 50, 60 people just going to the car and just devouring the car. I'm not joking. And then these people are full of it, man. I'm telling you, they're full of it. They don't want to hear it. They simply don't want to hear it. These cameras were not there, and then they can feel the collective energy. Yeah. Steven Crowder would never had a chance. I'm telling you the truth.
And here's the irony.
I just watched my friend die, right?
Steve, let me say this. Know what bothers me about white people, and this is kind of
everything.
No, not everything. Not everything.
But we smell like wet dog or something. I've heard all this stuff.
Let me tell you what bothers me about white people. Let's be honest here, because I work with a lot of white people, so I have nothing against them at all. Let me be honest with you. But the problem the biggest problem that I have is that you constantly get bombarded with the excuses. All right, when you really come down to it, let's be honest, man, and let's be really truthful with one another. Ask yourself, what do you expect when you look at architectural oppression, economic depravity, and social disparity? What would you call it?
Bad decisions.
Huh?
Bad decisions.
Bad decisions.
Yeah, I think right now in 2025, it's bad decisions. I think everyone can make better decisions.
And you know what? I'll even go here with you. In all fairness, I think that's absolutely true. So my question for you is, how do we move past this?
Yeah. Okay.
How do we move past
I agree with you. I agree. And I think maybe we'll find some common ground here. If we agree there is personal accountability and bad decisions, and I think we also all agree that feminist white are the worst demographic in the country, along with lesbians.
There's a great book that says that they were her property. See, that's what I'm saying.
Like I'm telling you, like believe me, I don't have a. Hold on. Let me just clarify, and I mean that. Angry white feminist and lesbians, because if they didn't vote, we wouldn't have half of the shit. But, and this is one thing I appreciate about black men, that white men are so, black men can talk about these things, and black men are okay being masculine. White men are told it's sexist. There's a lot there. Personal accountability decisions. Now, just take that and apply it. What you kind of just did here is you blamed white people, without realizing it, for systemic discrimination, and that removes autonomy from a white person to be accountable and also rewarded for their good decisions. So if we agree it's bad decisions, personal accountability, we'd all be against reparations, and we'd all be against the criminal justice reform.
I'm definitely for reparations.
I'm for reparations.
So
see, that to me, you said excuse.
Yeah.
That sounds like an excuse to me.
You ain't paid me back. You ain't paid me for what you owe me. It's
what did I take from you?
You can't start another bill
what did I take
until
from
you pay this old bill.
What did I take from you?
You didn't take but your ancestors.
But you just said you.
When I say you, I meant it as a euphemism.
You understand why white people hear it and get pissed off.
Yeah.
Because I can take shit.
But they're not mad about the advantages that were built into their lives.
So you want young people to pay.
It
sounds like an excuse.
And even without paying us back, Steve, know what my thoughts are on this here. Give us an opportunity to exercise our ability and our autonomy. Let me give you a perfect example.
What does that mean? Like, just so basically give the power away to these people. Just give the power away. Reparation was reparation was already paid post Civil War, guys. Civil War, land was given, fruits, vegetables to just be grown in big acres for a lot of these people, even in very small sections of the South, in some of these areas. Reparation was already paid, and I think a lot of them didn't survive because a lot of them didn't understand the system. That's the truth. That is the truth. And also, you have to put into accountability or into fruition that we spend trillions of dollars fighting property. It hasn't worked. It has not worked. So at some point, we have to, as an individual, we have to say, you know what? I think this is enough. Nobody, like straight up, nobody's going to give you reparation. Nobody.
There's a gal right now. Her name is Joy Reid. Look up her.
I know Joy Reid. She's out of her mind.
Look up her educational background. You don't think Harvard gave her a degree just because she was a black person on DEI, do you?
I think she's an idiot.
Okay, so
but not because she's black, but she's an idiot.
Okay, so you're entitled to that.
I think Van Jones is smart, and I disagree with him. Joy Reid has said things that are so verifiably untrue. It's insane.
Okay, so but you know, as a man, I'm going to indulge you and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to indulge you. I'm going to respect your opinion, your frame of thought on that, right? I beg to differ tremendously, but nevertheless, though, that's why we're having this open discussion. But let's really talk about where we need to go from here on, and that is the fact that black people have every sense of entitlement as it relates to having reparations. And I'm going to tell you why, right? Because nobody has ever been as more loyal to white people despite the treatment than black people have, right? Nobody. You show me one race. You know what? They make options and opportunities available when other ethnicities come here or what have you that we will never get a chance to have, right? And then they turn around and tell us, stop asking about reparations. Whenever we want to ask for equality and fairness, it's a problem. So white America.
So it spends several $1 trillion. When is it enough?
Wait, spend $7 trillion on what? What did they spend it on?
Let's go back to Lyndon Johnson model.
Lyndon Johnson, you're talking about the war on poverty? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
1965?
Why was that done?
All right, but here's the deal.
What about the Department of Education?
Here's the deal. So now you're saying the Department of Education. Let's go back to the Department of Education.
Okay, so my point is, hold on. No, I didn't answer your question.
All right.
The reason that this was given, right, when you're talking about the Great Society program, the reason when you look at the Model Cities program, urban planning, $8 billion into Detroit, adjusted for inflation, the reason that, and I don't know if you know this, black students in this country get more spending per pupil than white students. I don't know if you know that. That's an actual fact. Even in impoverished neighborhoods through public funding. These were the reparations that were asked of white people throughout each decade given, and then we're told, no, that's not the real one. They were given, whether you like them or not, whether you think they work or not. And by the way, I think they're dog shit. I think we should completely suspend the federal Department of Education. I think the Texas state could do a much better job. But those were done in the name of racial reparations because they were demanded,
Steve,
and now it's not enough.
Listen, you say that, but Steve, listen.
They want the cash. They don't want that reparation. They want the cash. They want the cash. That's what they want. They don't want anything else. They just want cash and money. That way they can spend it.
But was that?
Say we should suspend the Department of
I agree with you, because it's so. Why would they do it correctly?
It's not just because it was done in the name of racial justice that it was done incorrectly.
That's the reason for it.
I'm saying that's the reason for it. But along the way of trying to achieve racial justice, you just did it wrong.
But let me ask you,
because it doesn't work.
People did it the way we were asked.
Your reasoning was right. Your approach was wrong.
So now you make some 20-year-old kid pay?
No, but you came out and said something else. You said that you're against the Department of Education, right? Let me tell you
Federal
something.
Department.
Yeah, Federal Department of Education. Let me tell you something that has come up in a lot of circles that I'm always talking about as a person with a disability. The Department of Education does a lot more in terms of, even with the enforcement of Section 504, right? 504 says that you must have accommodations for individuals with disabilities, right? Perfect example of when you walked in or someone just walked in, did you hear what that thing said? Right, left. Go down to Austin. Let me tell you something. When you suspend the Department of Education, you're also telling the remain 36 million people in this country who have disabilities, you know what? Screw you. Figure it out. We don't have to do anything. Okay.
What in the hell this dude is saying? This dude is just rambling as a victim.
And this is another reason, going back to what we said with the Black America. If you don't have certain mechanisms in place to ensure that there is a fair and level playing field, right? Guess what? The controlling party that's in power, or what have you, are not going to say, hey, wait a minute, let's look at this other disenfranchised segment of the community or what have you, and see how can we provide
I'll disabuse you of that notion.
Okay,
Let me disabuse you of that notion.
Go ahead.
Over $3 trillion adjusted for inflation, right? The Department of Education, early 70s. Okay, before that, they were run by states. Over $3 trillion. What are math scores? What are literacy scores now? In both.
Depends on what part of the country you're asking that about.
Every.
Across the board.
Across the board. Everywhere. It's the same problem.
You can't go there because I'm going to tell you why you can't go there.
Hold on, I'll answer the question. Because then I'll show you an example of something that actually works, because we need solutions. They're across the board down. In other words, $3 trillion, test scores are worse. And they're even worse in poor areas where there's more spending. Do you know where black students in New York City actually do really well? White Catholic schools, where they have more students per teacher, on average 35 plus. In other words, they have fewer teachers. It's done privately. Charter schools, school choice is something I support. That means for everyone in this country. Can't do it because it's racist.
Let's look at the academia, though. Okay,
that's why it's being fought.
When you start talking about that, what have you? When you talk about test scores, we can go just north versus south, or what have you. Let's look at the quality of education that's in these schools, or what have you. Are you going to tell me that it's a standardized academic agenda that's promoted throughout this country, or is it a fact that some people have a different education level than black? Listen, I work with people.
They're bad across the board.
I work with people every day that are out the north that have far excelled in
that's absolutely true.
Than we have in the
bad
south.
And worse. There's no good. Right. There's no good. There's shit and here. And what I'm saying is, here's something where we could find common. I've proposed this. Many people have. Where we go, look, instead of giving money to a school, like you say, some of these schools suck, right? Instead of just putting, let's say the average spending is $15,000 per student. That's a rounded number. It's anywhere from 13 to 50. Okay. If instead of putting that money in the administrative costs at a school, what you do is you say, okay, that's a grant, that's a voucher that attaches to the student, and they can take it to any school they want, so they have to compete. So that kid can now choose where they go to school. Can't do it because it's racist.
But
that's why it's been fought. People say black kids would still be stuck in shit schools than white kids.
Why?
Well, see, that comes
because they wouldn't be able to transport themselves out of a bad neighborhood. But right now they're stuck with one school.
So when you start asking those whys and go down the rabbit hole of why and start asking, okay, well, why would somebody say that? Well, this is why.
Well, I'll tell you why they really say it. Because of teachers unions.
Because of teachers unions?
Yeah. It doesn't make. In other words, if
I get the problem is a lot of these teachers, if they use. The thing about school is if they lose population, they have to close because they're not meeting the requirement to just keep them open for operation. So they're going to try their best where students cannot be transported from point A to point B. So you're going to have a lot of unions fighting against that.
kid right now has to go to
because
one.
in certain communities where they don't have certain resources, it's a lot of kids. Once again, I've lived in, I've raised my kids, graduated 3 kids from